what we can do, since till our panelists join, maybe we can start the discussion. Saket, since you are there from Rocket and Dhaval from Godrej, um, we why not get started with discussion and see if our speaker joins in. Otherwise, you guys can be the speaker. I'm not from the F&B background, so I would love to know what's going on. We last had a meet like this, industry meet in May last year, when we were in middle of the lockdown. And at that time, we were still speculating a lot of things, right? That how new normal will look like, how the demand behavior will change towards the more health conscious food. People would be more online in terms of you know ordering rather than being in the restaurants. Uh, there was a huge demand for FMCG, fast moving, biscuits and things that we stock up at home. And then there were companies like InBev, where Achilles, who were waiting for government not to start, selling, because all that was on hold. So there was a lot of speculation. We were all wondering how things would be as we get out of this pandemic. And today we are in 2021, towards the end of January. Things look normal, above normal, as it may be, and we have vaccines been actually in the market, and people are getting it as we speak. So a lot has happened in this last few months. Good thing is that now we actually know how things are shaping up, right? And what I wanted to do with these meets was to actually start discussing, and we all come together and discuss what are the changes that we are seeing, how our processes are doing, and probably take each other's help to learn and take advice from each other, right? So that was the whole idea of doing this industry level meet rather than a function level meet of, say, supply chain or finance or whatever, right? So Saket, I would love to know your views on how you think see changes as part of Rocket. And I think you were on the panel. We spoke once, right? How do you see changes happening? What are the changes from the demand side and on the supply side? If you can just give us your observations of last few months.
Sure, Rishi. Thanks for having me on this discussion panel. And yes, you quoted it right. That since we have been into the situation since last March, things have drastically changed. And I would say this tenure, they have actually evolved in terms of overall demand and supply part, if I quote it right.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, since March, there has been we all know the disruption we all have gone through in terms of overall operations per se, for overall supply chain. But then yes, as we have now crafted ourselves with the new normal strategies. So yes, things have already started evolving since last couple of months. And in terms of Rocket being the leader in the plant-based ingredients, we know that the overall demand pattern, if I talk about, people have become really really very cautious on their choices of food now, their
Mm-hmm.
choices of nutrition that they want to have. And yes, there comes the major play in terms of overall demand shift from the general food what people used to take earlier, and now there has been a major shift to the nutritions and the plant based segment and fibers. So yes, globally, Rocket had seen a tremendous increase in the overall demand after this lockdown. This has been a blessing in disguise for the overall Rocket group, I would say, because just because of the sort of importance what people had come up in terms of their eating habits. that have gone totally towards more nutritious and more natural sort of a product rather than uh, uh, versus the current offerings what we have. So in terms of demand, yes, there was not a major slowdown globally, because when it comes to the food segment and especially segment specifically, Rocket had seen a major rise in that sector. However, just to give you the brief on the overall shift what we have seen in Indian construct, the Indian market scenario, there was a drop of almost 3 months where we saw all the consumer giants plants were shut for almost 2-3 months, or were running only on 50% of their overall capacity. So yes, we had a drop of almost 2-3 months for our base products portfolio. But then yes, from second half, it has been considerably improved. And yes, with the new normal in place, it is going to be evolved for sure in the coming time, and we are actually expecting to have our business in the same pace as it was in 18 and 19.
So
From
that's good to
supply,
know.
yeah,
Now we'll
correct.
talk about the supply a little later. So let's because
Mm,
it's
sure, sure.
demand which is really changing quickly, and supply is reacting. I also wanted to know, especially from you, that are you seeing any other peculiarities as we are coming out of this in terms of demand and reaction in terms of products? Because I found it very interesting that when we were reading that Domino's has launched that plant-based meat pizza, right? Something that I don't remember seeing before. So
Mm,
in terms of demand for say these products that companies like Rocket have now found new customers in terms of where it can be applied, as those companies, other food companies are breaking their you know spending a lot of time in researching and developing new products, new offering to the customers. So are you seeing any such interesting changes? And not only from Rocket perspective, even your competitors or industry per se, that you may have observed?
Sure, Rishi. Yeah. So, just to give you the overall perspective, but then the overall market scenario really has actually broadened up the overall product portfolio for company to rethink on the offerings what they actually have. So yes, I can actually recall one of the the major transitions what I have seen between the two major giants, which is General Mills and Nestle. They have come up with a new joint venture as well in during this COVID scenario to build up couple of more product portfolios, which is actually very much focused on the overall nutritions and the overall fiber content specifically for such products like peas and pastas and couple of more products. So yes,
They have formed a
people are
joint venture, you're saying?
yeah, it's a joint venture with the name CPM. I actually could not recall the full form of it, but then it is more towards a joint venture between Nestle and General Mills.
That's interesting. And
So this is
is this in
one of
India
the
as well?
latest. Yes, they are starting the operation in India soon. So I am expecting, because one of my colleagues or one of my friend, I could say, is already working with that company, and probably
Oh
they
wow.
have plans to, yeah. So they have already planned to roll out the operations in India soon, looking at the current scenario of the nutrition segment in the way things are moving forward. So yes, this is one of the latest example that I could recall. However, in terms of expanding the product portfolio for the companies, for Rocket, yes, we also have gone through a couple of segments, which includes fibers, and so we have increased our market presence in the fiber segment specifically, and yes, some modified starch, I would say, is the segment where we have increased our market presence, where all the consumer giants are actually focusing on. So yes, things are actually developing in the right direction, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, and how do you see the dine-in versus delivery thing? You think dine-in will still be back as it was, or you think it's all moved towards delivery model in a larger mix of things?
Hmm. So Rishi, to be frank, there are two sectors of dine-in I would like to categorize the Indian market has. Okay, one is the dine-in part where what you see across the streets, which is street foods and all and everything, and one is a proper restaurant where people just go and have a proper sitting place and eat their food. So when I talk about occupancy rate of street foods, it is totally on. It is totally on in the hotspots of the country. So that is so that market, because the almost 10 to 20% of the business for Rocket comes from the these street players, huh? And that is
Really? Now
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
again surprising for me.
yeah,
Okay.
correct, because the Indian unorganized sector, if I talk about all the panwalas, we have chewing-gums, then other products which is actually very very much prominent on the streets, uh, contributes to almost 10 to 15% of our overall revenue, and that is totally on with the new normal in place. However, when it comes to overall restaurants where we have proper dine-in and all, yes, with the current government guidelines with only 10 to 15% of occupancy and with certain timelines to roll out, I guess it will at least take 6 to 7 months to get that market up. But then for the overall kirana shops and everything, or where we have very very, I would call it, bucket products in place, so that are already on in the overall Indian market. So I expect that it will take at least 7 to 8 months, further to roll out that overall dine-in scenario in India as of now. But then you never know, with the new strain coming in, with more countries getting into lockdown now. The latest one I have heard it of Hong Kong
Oh yeah.
yesterday.
Okay.
So yeah, we never know the scenario, but then if India is able to contain the current situation with the vaccine and all, I guess things will evolve rapidly in next half at least of the year. So
Right. Thanks, Saket. A lot of interesting insights from you. I didn't know of, and especially now your 25% of your market being in this street food is very interesting to know. I still don't know what are those products which these guys would be using, but that's interesting to
okay,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to check, Dhaval, would you want to share any insights from what you see in the consumer space uh, in a similar fashion?
So I will give you two insights. My experience, totally mine. One is a personal experience. So
Mhm.
the place where I stay, it's in Navi Mumbai, and it has been a hotspot for the number of cases. In fact, at some point of time, it was having the highest density of COVID cases in probably, if not the world, at least in Asia. I was looking at the stats. But if I now look at uh, the places of eatery businesses, I never see any shred of evidence whether COVID happened here. It seems nothing happened here. It has been business as usual everywhere. The people are, of course, only 30-40% people seem to be wearing masks at all. But totally, I see one thing happening, that the kind of fear factor which was there earlier, it does not seem to be there, at least on the roads. And that's quite interesting to see. Of course, people do take precautions wherever they need to, uh, but the business seems to have gone back to good levels,
Mhm.
and it will increase in the few periods of time as we go forward. That's one. Secondly, on the professional side, in terms of consumer products, the awareness on consumers and customers on hygiene related, or say, how do I say it? The products which help you in avoiding hospital visits, etc. That seems to have gone up, and that has gone up subconsciously. It's not a tsunami of sorts, but people have seemed to ingrain the idea that a lot of things are there available. A simple thing like a hand wash, or a simple thing like a mosquito repellent, that seems to be something which helps the people avoid a frequent visit to doctor. So even though in this year you would not have heard much cases on dengue outbreak, etc., but I believe that's also because of higher consumption and the mindset of people which has changed in order to have a larger defense shield in their homes, etc. And that's also good from business perspective.
Interesting, and I'm glad that you brought up that point. It was a personal observation as well that we all were so focused on COVID, and in all our collective efforts to save ourselves from that, we didn't realize that how much we have saved ourselves from a lot of other things and diseases, right? Including common cold and stuff, right? Which is highly contagious, right? So because we were so protected, I think so. I don't know if you normally went to the OPD of any hospital, it would be highly crowded, right? But how did everybody survive, in this period? Obviously, probably the demand wasn't there, and so those of us who survived probably are much healthier as well. But so Dhaval, did you also see, I'm sure Godrej launched new products in hygiene as well. So did you see any other interesting things from the product perspective, new launches, things that did well, not do well, either Godrej or any of the in the consumer space, or things that went down possibly after initial demand?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
See, the typical life cycle of a new product in India, typically, in my experience, it starts to blossom only after 1.5 or 2 years of launch. And that is the incubation period, not only in the market, but also in the minds of the consumer, whether they really want it. Because see, the consumer will only be believing the necessity of the product in its home after at least 2 uses. Okay. And typically a new product will take probably 4 or 5 months on the shelf, or probably 3 months on the shelf. So at least 2 or 3 quarters go before the kind of consumer loyalty and agreeableness towards that product blossoms in. So it's too early, because COVID, as we are aware, it happened around, say, in February, March. So now we are probably reaching that cycle when, if a product would have been launched on the date of COVID or lockdown, we would have seen the blossoming of it. But I believe it will take some more time, probably 2 or 3 quarters, before the NPDs come into a strong flow of sorts. However, the ones which were launched 2 years ago, those did quite well in this period. And that has been a good, pleasant surprise.
Like what kind of products were these? Like 2 years back, what categories were these?
So, like, say, Godrej at that point of time had introduced a 15 rupees hand wash, a powder to liquid hand wash.
Okay.
And that really clicked at this point of time, because it was for the masses. It was a alternate to the soap bath, and it was something which anybody could make at home. Even children were able to make it. Using just a 15 rupees sachet, you can make a hand wash at home. You just need clean water. So things like those did really well.
Okay, so because they were very useful in these times.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So my next curiosity would be from your perspective, both Dhaval and Saket, you can contribute, is on how has your function in terms of demand planning. We'll talk about supply after this, but in terms of demand planning, how difficult has it become, and what are some of the things we are doing differently in planning? considering that we don't have now, we are approaching a quarter where we would be having a blank out last year, right? So how are you gearing up to manage that as well?
So let me take this one. I think the first 6 months were all about frenzy. Let me label it by that word. It was frenzy all around. There were huge spikes coming in from unknown places of demand. And demand planning was one part of the story. The other part was also supply planning. So I was into supply planning a lot.
Okay.
And it was just like a, how do I say, a roulette wheel. You never know which number is going to come up next. You need to be ready for all kinds of bets. So it was such a dynamic situation that probably you were having an SNOP meeting every third day instead of say once a month or twice a month. So it was that kind of stuff. And frenziness was also characterized by uncertain supply conditions across the factories, the vendor base, the distribution base, everything was under a flux. The recent months have been more about consolidation, about acknowledging where we have been strong and where we have not been, and then building upon that and improving efficiency. So we have seen the best of both the worlds this year. It has been a memorable year. I think I will remember this year for my entire life.
And you're not alone.
Yeah.
Saket, how about you? What changes you see in planning on the demand side at least?
This is more or less similar to what Dhaval mentioned actually. So yes, it was clearly a haywire in the first 6 to 7 months of the year 2020, where where we used to do our overall monthly SNOP cycle. We have revised it to on a weekly level now. What Saurav mentioned, that they used to have it on every third day. We used to have it on every week to revise on our demand numbers and completely do not be dependent on the planning tool output for sure. It was a total manual work, order to order tracking what was we were doing during that time, because as mentioned very clearly by Saurabh also, that you were not actually aware what is going to be the next day order or the next day volume that you will have from the specific segment or specific portfolio. So yes, it was a completely haywire for first 6 months, but then yes, looking at the current trend, things have started evolving now, and with certain specific I would say functional products like starch and liquid glucose, which is volume wise the highest offering from Rocket. We have started seeing that trend of improving in the linear upward direction. So in that segments, the demanded also improvement on or have started shaping up in the linear manner now, which is going upwards. That is good. But then in the specialties and food specialty segment, if I talk about things where we have more stringent quality products to be produced for customers, there I could see still some scope to balance out in next 6 to 7 months. However, for the base products, we are actually online. So the first 6 months were really tough in terms of overall planning for demand. So we were on complete manual process for taking the demand input from commercial and having that aligned with finance as well, so that we run on great economies of scale. And the second part, as you mentioned, we'll be talking about supplies. So I'll share my contribution, which was a more interesting part to discuss. Yeah.
Yes, but now before we jump there, I'm just very keen to know how does the process look now? You think have you done any changes? Would go forward be a little different from what it was same time last year? One, and the secondly, how are you preparing to tackle the last year's lockdown period when there was like a shutdown and hardly any demand for this year's planning because you would lack a base, right? So how are you managing that?
Okay. So from overall operations and planning process perspective, Rishi, yes, there are many changes in the overall process what we have done, uh, just to maintain the business continuity for the, in the overall scenario. The first major change what we have done post COVID is our SNOP cycle. What we used to follow on every monthly level, we are doing it on a weekly level, and till now we are following that till we
Oh,
have
really? Till now?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah till now. So till we the target is to to have that achievement of normal sale which we are expecting in next 6 to 7 months. So I am expecting till first half of 21 we will continue to follow this new model of sales and operations planning on a weekly level, and having a very close coordination and planning with sales people. Now also they have also become, I would say, a bit more
Sensitive?
sincere or sensitive in terms of the overall volume that they quote. So yes, the
Mm.
weekly monitoring of that volume also has played a very significant role in terms of overall a role of sales in the organization, I would say. So yes, when we say the company is sales driven, uh, now is the right time to say that, because every volume what they quote has to be turned out in the same fashion, because that for that every volume the supply also follows with that same efficiency and with the same plant capacity, which is to be decided based on the demand volume. So this is one of the major changes what we've done in the SNOP planning. Second thing is on our demand cycle as well, which we used to follow. Earlier was M+2. We were on the cycle of M+2 for demand. Now we have shrunken it down to M+1 now. So just to have that clear output in the system for planning tool, we have shrunken that cycle from M+2 to M+1 now, so that globally we have one sanity on the numbers where we are going in terms of overall budget versus the budget and versus our actual sales. So
Right.
these two are the major thing. In terms of detailed scheduling also, which was on the cycle of week +3 to week +4 what we used to follow earlier, we have shrunken that down as well to week +1, so that we have a complete visibility on the capacity and the complete visibility on the capacity leveling as well across the manufacturing units. So this that has also has a very key role to play in terms of deciding your overall plant capacity for the month and for the week as well. So earlier it was a monthly supply review meeting for each unit to have a view on the overall your raw materials, your raws and packs, capacities and everything. Now we do it on a every bi-weekly meeting basis the orders in the sales and operations planning meeting visibility what we get. So yes, these three are the major tracks. Fourth one is on the inventory. So for functional products, as I have mentioned earlier, for starch and liquid glucose, we are running actually as per the norms what we used to earlier. But then for specialties and food specialties, we have substantially reduced our norms, to only 5 to 6 days to 7 days, not more than that, just because of the demand drop what we have seen. So the average days on hand inventory what we used to maintain for foods were close to 15-20 days, just because of their quality norms and testing and everything. But then since we do have that drop, there has been a substantial revision in the inventory norms what we used to follow, and also the inventory policies globally for this segment, which is food and specialties. Yeah.
It's very evident from your feedback that future is still perceived as very uncertain, and that's why it's shorter cycles for any
Correct.
kind of planning, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to invite Rajesh here. Rajesh, that's you, right? Kanadeyar. I'm just trying to read your from Keva Foods. Would you like to share some perspectives from your side as well on how you see the demand and the planning?
Yeah, thanks everyone. This is the first time I'm attending this GAP network actually. I joined recently.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Rajesh.
Keva, we are into as I don't know how much information you people are having, but since it's
You
a
can give a quick introduction of Kiva as well. And which location are you in, Rajesh?
I'm from Mulund, from Bombay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So I was
Good to
earlier in the part of planning and procurement team. Now I
Mhm.
have moved into the business solutioning team where I am looking after entire project implementations, business process improvement and all. But yes, planning is my hard code. No, so I always give my inputs to my colleagues and all as and when they require some inputs and all. So although I'm now
Okay.
into a complete project implementation team.
Okay.
As far as demand concern, yes, there was the moment the pandemic has hit, there was a sudden drop in the demand in the month of April. But slowly, gradually, the government started started giving relaxation, like you can operate with 20% or workforce kind of thing. So our operation has
Um,
started, and slowly.
Rajesh, if you can just quickly appraise us about the products of Kiva, so we have a better idea of
Yeah,
what you prefer.
we are into B2B kind of business. We are into flavors and fragrance kind of business. So we supply our fragrance to Godrej, all key customers, Marico and all. So our fragrance goes to there in the final end product, Synthol, and I can share one of two products which I am aware about it. And there are some fragrance. There are non segment category area is also there where they buys our fragrance and they make their own perfumes, duos. Winnie is one of our major customers, Marico. So we do
Good.
have a key customers, and again but the 20% volume comes from the key customers, 80% is from the non-organized sector.
Okay.
So we are into
Yeah.
B2B kind of business. I think this is brief must be good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Rajesh. Yeah. So, what are the demand scenarios unfolding for Kiva post the lockdown? How are
Yeah.
you seeing?
For Keva, I think it was an opportunity. So we encashed that opportunity because we supply our fragrance and it goes main to into a sanitizer business. So our sanitizer category have gone up like anything. So our almost you can say the 40-60% volume in that in this period has gone up. So
Mm.
yes, we got that one of the category as a new win or new business. So for us, it was a you can say that it's a new business for us, but I don't know how long it will get continue. But the now there is a but the problem is that my other category is going down because the product which are going into your sanitizer kind of things or the maybe in your the protection things, so those are going up, but the problem is that there is no use of your deos and perfumes, so that category is going down. So yes, there is a gain, there is a loss like that, but overall business is gone up.
And in
uh,
F&B, how do you see demand from the like Maricos of the world?
uh, See that, and right now again now everybody have said this the same thing, because capturing demand is becoming very difficult day in day out. We are also focusing on the how can we capture our business, because our budget has been revised. So we are targeting we are planning to target our revised budget, and in that way, and we are close to that. So it I means there is a drop in some of the category, but there is a gain. So overall there is a balance, but still we are lacking
Basically,
somewhere.
mix is changing.
Product mix has changed. And
Hmm.
yeah, one can say that detergent category have gone down. Your maybe a hygiene part has gone up, maybe your synthol sort of things, but there is no focus as such on any particular category, because we are into B2B kind of business. Whatever demand comes from unorganized sector for organized sectors, for us it's a business. Yes, but we are gaining. We are shortfall by our budget. Maybe now only 3 months are remaining. Let us see how we can capture. But demand, yes, orders are coming. There is a gap, but again there is a lot of issues from the supply side, because our 50% volumes come from the we are doing import our raw materials and all. So there are price hike, is a foreign exchange. So a lot of things have been contributing to our profit margins sort of thing. So yes, demand is there, but supplies are happening, but not up to the mark because of these reasons.
Right. Thanks, Rajesh, for that perspective.
Yeah.
And while you were speaking, I saw Girish coming in. Hi, Girish. Thanks for joining in. Girish was also one of our panelists way back in May when we spoke. And Girish, can you hear me? It would be good to get Girish is from Hatikapi.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We can
Yeah,
hear
yeah. You are very clear. Yeah.
Okay. So Girish, you missed the earlier part. We have Dhaval from Godrej, and he was just mentioning that now looking at streets outside, it doesn't seem that there was a pandemic at all. And I remember restaurants, and especially a company like yours, Hatikapi, was pretty severely hit because you run on kiosks and restaurants, whether it was airports or high street malls. And that's where you were facing issue with the demand. So very keen to know, you are the only person who's from the restaurant side over here. Very keen to know on how since last quarter things have been looking for restaurants, especially for
Yeah. Thank you, Rishi, for inviting me, and it's my pleasure to share the inputs. We have undergone a very rough patch during the last 10 months, because precisely it started in the month of April 1st, if I say. So April to Jan is exactly the 10 months, and we have been hit very badly. Being a pandemic, what happened is that where, if I look back and do small analysis, first 6 months was people are scared to come out and eat food or drink beverage, period. So as a result, everything zero. So there is nothing, nobody knew, even including World Health Organization, nobody was able to confirm what it will help to overcome, which is the safety aspect in terms of outside food and restaurants. So without that standard guidelines, people were running pillar to post, and so number one. Number of time people started experiencing themselves, they realized that food and beverages doesn't cause COVID. So that helped to a certain extent. And people started, including employees, very few people were eating outside. So we're getting, because for two reasons. One is not much of information available. Next thing is not much of cure available. The thing is, if something gets something, and people are not sure where to start, what to do, and all those things, right? So what we experienced, all of our outlets were shut, period, zero revenue. Then after 6 months, or for say 5 months, then slowly one outlets we started opening up. And the challenge here is for two folds. One is the rentals. Suppose Brigade Road, we had an outlet with 1.5 lakh rupee rentals. So they also agreed for 6 months. After 6 months, they said, no, you can't, we can't stop the rentals. So they wanted rentals back. So what we did, we closed all the outlets where it doesn't make economic sense, number one. Number two, what to offer? We can't offer a full-fledged menu because kitchen also is not working fully. So what we did is, kitchen we started operating bare minimum, and bare minimum food products were shipped out. And right now, only 30% of our outlets are open as of today.
Oh, okay.
And
are these mostly high street and
outlets?
airports?
High street outlets, yes, that's right. For example, Jainagar, Orion Mall, Koramangala, Brigade Road. Brigade Road, we opened another outlet. Airports. So airports also, we used to do, right now about 30 to 40% of our business only is happening pre-COVID days. The reason for that is international flights are not there, number one. Domestic flights are not, all sectors are not operating. Very few sectors are operating. So as a result, maybe 1/3 to 50% of the population are traveling right now. So even that traveling also, people are scared to come out and hang out. People after traveling, they want to just get into the cab and then they sanitize themselves and then they will go home first. So all these things are resulting as, even we are not able to reach 50% mark, but slowly it is coming to 50% as we see daily sales. earlier, pre-COVID, we used to do about say 10 lakhs. Now we are reaching about 4 lakhs per day. So roughly about 40% of our sales.
So I think I get a sense that Hatikapi comes under a more organized retail outlet in terms of F&B, right? I think that's where the uptake is still little slower. What we observed that Dhaval and Saket were sharing as well in terms of the street food outside, that I think seems a bit normal, at least to a naked eye, right? And that's why we see so many people are outside.
You're right.
Just having.
Where our sale is still 30 to 40%, is it? Remaining rest of our about 30 to 40% of our outlets were in corporates. So those corporate outlets are all shut down. For example, we were there in all the corporates, including Microsoft, TCS, SAP, Infosys. Infosys itself, 18 stores were there. So all the
that's a big hit. That's a big hit.
No, and so one learning for us as Hatikapi is that don't put all eggs in one basket. Old saying, but it has hit us very badly. So now that's the reason. One of the reasons is that we started innovation. We innovated 2 products. One is filter coffee decoction, which will be sold through our FMCG route with all the hypermarkets and kirana stores. Like similar to ID coffee decoction, number 1.
So we read that news in the papers. So good to know that.
Number 2 is we are coffee powders. Earlier coffee powders we used to sell only through our channel, our outlets. So that one we are taking up a big way.
Sorry, Girish, I missed that one.
So these are the COVID learnings for us, and so these are the 2 learnings, and which is good for us actually. Going forward, maybe after 2 years, we will be present in all the FMCG routes of kirana stores and hypermarkets, and also online. Big basket we have cracked. Amazon, Flipkart.
Okay, interesting.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Now it is clear. So, and just to let you know, I did buy from Hatikapi in Oran Mall a couple of weeks back to support the demand.
Oh, good. That may be the reason you are speaking so elegantly today.
Sure. So let's now we consume good part of the talk in the demand part. Saket, I'm keen to know your interesting experience on the supply side, how things are shaping up.
Sure, Rishi. So yes, here comes the major ball to play with, which is yes, your overall supply plan, how to plan your overall manufacturing operations and the distribution activities during this scenario. So yes, starting March 2020, the first 2-3 months were a clear set of manufacturing units for us. Out of 3, at least 2 were completely shut, and we are trying to optimize the capacity at least of 1 unit, so that we can actually have our VM ratio as per the budget or as per the target what we had. So we were trying to do that, but then at the same time we were incurring some higher freight cost just to service say south customers from north manufacturing unit or east customers from the western part of the country from Viramgam and Gujarat. So yes, it was a really close call for us to make that decision. And yes, the weekly sales and operations planning meeting what we crafted during this COVID scenario actually helped us to make that decision very smooth and very faster. Secondly, from safety standpoint also, it was a real threat for everyone, especially for the people at manufacturing and the soft floor. That we were were a bit struggling in terms of overall FT count to be present at the manufacturing location for all the manufacturing operations and distribution and everything. So yes, we had the limitations on that part as well. So yes, capacity balancing and manpower balancing as well parallelly were going up very very rigorously, I would say, on a weekly level. So all the contract manufacturers during that time, what we had, we have gone to the revision of all of their rates on the hourly basis and number of manpower which is required basis the overall production. So yes, the one of the major calls what was required to be taken from operations or business continuity point of view to run our plants full. So the first 3 months, however, were not favorable in terms of running the overall capacity. But then after 3 months, we were actually there at the position, to have at least 60-70% for our capacity for all the manufacturing units. Post that, as I mentioned earlier, since we have seen a linear increased demand trend in the base product, which is the highest volume maker for Rocket. So for starch and liquid glucose, we were back in the overall market by August or September or during Diwali time, where where all the mithai shops and everything were opened, and we gained that market to capture our capacity to the max, at least not to the max, but then at least 80% what we had targeted during that time. So till September, from March for at least only running one unit to 100%, till September expanding our horizon to at least 70-80% for all the units. And now with the situation evolving, we are completely packed with all the demand for across the units. But then that is not the case with food and specialty segment, that will still take time to evolve. So with the overall plant capacity leveling, if I talk about the weekly sales and operations planning, was actually a driver for us to take the decision that how many days we have to run the plant, or how many days we need to have the manpower inside the factory basis the safety deadlines what we had in terms of to contain that spread, because we had couple of our units where we found couple of cases also within our facility. So that was a really tough time to deal with, because at the same time you need to have that business continuity as well, and at the same time there were couple of cases around. So yes,
your factory is in Batti, right? If I'm not
no,
wrong.
it's in
Or
Pantnagar. It's in Pantnagar.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the units we have in Pantnagar, the other unit is in Viramgam, which is very close to Ahmedabad, and the third unit in India is in Gokak, which is near to Hubli, near to almost 40-50 kilometers from Hubli. So there were a couple of cases of COVID also across the units, but then we there was a serious play which was supposed to be taken during that time, and we kept our unit shut for at least 40-15 days, and post that we took a call to restart that with the demand coming in. Moreover, following the overall capacity planning and production, it was a challenge for logistics team as well to arrange for the overall dispatch during that time, because transporters and drivers and everyone was very they were actually refraining, especially the people on the shop floor. I would really talk about drivers. They were actually very threatened with the overall situation. They were not actually supposed to visit, but then they with the relations what we have, or with the other spot freights what we have got from the market, we somehow managed to deliver the product from the factories. However, it has cost us a bit higher in terms of overall freight budget, but then just to maintain that continuity, we had to take that call very close, and with the impact on VM and EBITDA for sure, that could have that impact.
Any positive permanent changes that this has driven in on the supply side that you were forced to make, but now it makes a lot of sense? It has brought any kind of efficiency, agility in supply? Any such instances?
Exactly, Rishi, for sure, because the major contribution in on supply part, what COVID has taught us is agility and resilience. That is for sure, because till the time you are agile on your supply side, we have actually realized that the service to the customers and maintaining the business continuity will be a really tough game going forward. So yes, agility across the teams, across the stakeholders, and I would say across the facilities for the company has really changed, and it has actually changed the mindset of the people as well to to have yourself flexible enough and to make yourself available at the time of any such contingency which into place. So yes, in terms of overall quality operations and in terms of overall manufacturing operations, or I would like to say the overall the production front, these three are the parameters where we have gone through a couple of innovations while reducing the lead time of quality. You're making your lines more comfortable for other products as well, so that the capacity do not go as a waste, and making your your overall line structure that way that for every product you not need to have any such XYZ instruments in place. By the time you have bare minimum capacity available, we just go ahead with the same quality standards. Okay. So yes, there are a couple of innovations we have gone through across the units in terms of production stability and in terms of quality standards as well.
Okay. Wonderful, Saket. Now, while you were speaking, I realized I had a question that I wanted advice from on this group, and your opinions, your also experience is in terms of distribution itself, right? We have GST in place now, and that makes the goods movement easy, but mostly the entire supply chain was set up for the pre-GST scenario, and it just made it easier to go around. What I want to know is how do you see now things changing, and COVID has made, as I observed, few companies do that of consolidation of supplies, as a lot of companies have also activated the online channel in a bigger way than it was before. So it's becoming an omni-channel environment, whether it is the B2B case in case of Rajesh, or retail in case of Girish, or just the manufacturing supplies in case of other two. But is it making sense now to have a more Amazon kind of distribution supply model, where you consolidate stocks and have more real-time supplies, leveraging the power of this e-commerce delivery that these people have been able to create over the last 5-6 years? Or are we still seeing sustenance of the older model, where it will be more local hubs, different locations, and supply being mapped to warehouses locked to that location? That is something that I've been thinking about and discussing, but I would really want to know if there are any changes you guys are doing in your companies, or how do you see that from the supplies distribution side? Dhawal, Girish.
Okay, can I answer that?
Yeah, Girish,
Rishi,
please.
Girish.
Please go ahead.
In fact, as we speak, I was reviewing our online presence sales today.
Oh, Girish, we
in
lost
the
you.
last 3 months, if I see, we roughly do about 1% of reported sales online. The two challenges for a companies like us is that because the ticket size ticket size is very less for a company size for us, like a T-copy. The reason for that is our each of the product is 100 rupees. Can you able to hear me?
No, it's okay. In between, it kind of gets
okay. No, we do about roughly 2% of our sales on online in terms of online aggregators like Amazon, Big Basket, Flipkart, and all. So here the challenge is for a coffee powder company is the logistic cost. Sometimes somebody wants 2 packets, so they will pay as much as logistic cost as a pack of the product itself. So that is one. Number 2 is that this is evolved. In fact, our website is doing very well. In fact, much better than Amazon. But what is happening with us is that our experience, I don't know about others, we have to shell out at least 35% to online the aggregators, Amazon or Flipkart, or 30 to 35%. So if my product is 100 rupees worth, I have to shell out 30% means 30 rupees. So I'll be left with only 70 rupees plus logistics cost. So the distribution through them is very expensive for us. Whereas
but if you like follow their model, but on your own, something like a hyper local deliveries.
Yeah. That's where we, in fact, our website is same offers. If we give on our website, say 30% or 20% off for the same price points, definitely we can have our own customer segments who can buy who has got a loyalty to Aticopy, and we can do. But for that, we need to do a lot of promotion with all. For example, different cities, we need to do promotions. Then only we can able to. Otherwise, how do they come to know that there is a website called Aticopy.com?
Yeah, that's other challenge that Amazon has invaded our thought process.
On the same process, on the same breath, I can speak on Swiggy and Zomato for food deliveries. They are also not straightforward in terms of 30% we need to shell out. For example, if my idli and vada is 100 rupees, I have to pay 30 rupees to them for delivery. So it's a chicken and egg story for us. You know, we are catch-22 situation. Unless we develop our own distribution model, it doesn't work. But that is also not easy at this point of time. There's a lot of other challenges, but nevertheless, it is picking up this piece. What we understand from our competitor, another F&B brand is one Meghna Biryani. I don't know whether you know it or not. Meghna Biryani is very popular biryani in Bangalore. They have their own hotels, at least 20 or 30 hotels are there. And IT crowd loves biryani because that is their success of coding, I think. So, so they have their own distribution network. They have their own scooters. If you see Bangalore city, each of their hotels will have at least 10 scooters with the carry baggage backed with the Meghna Biryani. So I think they are doing a good job in terms of delivery model. But they also have got a strong online presence on Swiggy and Zomato. The number one, somewhere I read, I don't know whether it is correct or not, Zomato has claimed somewhere that their number one delivery on their portal is biryani.
Okay.
All over India.
For Bangalore, perhaps. Oh, really?
Maybe Hyderabad. Hyderabad they must be eating and drinking biryani only every day. They have paradise biryani there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's a small piece from me.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying. It's not perhaps viable to really go with Amazon and the likes, but it's also difficult on the other hand to set up that similar parallel delivery system on our own. So that's but I think everybody, all of us, need to start gearing up for that future, because I get a feeling that sooner or later we'll have to be all part of that game, and hopefully the ecosystem will develop.
No, you are very much right, Rishi, because the other day I was going to Sapna bookstall or Crossword. Being a book lover, I have to say that. I go there. When I asking, they don't have a proper delivery system in the Sapna bookstall. I have to go to Amazon and order for Sapna books, whatever books are there.
Acha, you have to go to Amazon to order for Sapna books.
I mean, almost like that. Their website is lousy. They don't have a proper. So where I come from is that Indian brands, they should put their brain into developing their own model of delivery system, so that they can pass on the same benefits, more benefits to the end consumer,
right,
in terms of delivery of the product. Yeah.
Right. Dhaval, I wanted to check with you. I was reading during the lockdown that a lot of the consumer product companies are investing in the technology of in these mom and pop stores to get the information and get more closer to the consumer. So has Godrej done any of such investments? And if yes, then how are you guys using it today? How is it benefiting?
Uh, so let me be very frank with you. I am not very well aware on the latest developments in terms of say, the GT market, how the mom and pop stores are being brought under the ambit of large scale volume deliveries directly from the business. But one thing what I have seen is the kind of EDI interfaces which were earlier there, those have gone under a major overhaul. And the kind of listening to the consumer or listening to the customer's voice at the most granular level, that used to be a forte for Godrej's distribution earlier also, and it has evolved further. So I'll give you an example. It's not from a mom and pop store, but this is something which happened to me. So day before yesterday, I got a very nasty email coming up from a customer being forwarded back to the brand head and then coming back to me saying, for a particular product which has a machine and a refill, the refills are not available in the market. So neither in the market it is available, neither on online stores it is available, and neither on Godrej's website it says stocks are available, because we are all aware there is a constraint on some parts of the supply chain. But what I recognized from the entire episode was the omni-channelity in the terms of customer is very, very strong now. So earlier, a customer might want to say, okay, I am not getting a particular brand, I will switch on to another one. I will not be too much loyal. But now the customer thinks, okay, if I'm not getting in my mom and pop store, let me try it on Amazon. And something like, as Girish was just now mentioning, that if the bookstore does not have books to deliver, he will rather have Amazon deliver it to him. The customer even goes one step further. He goes to the company's website and looks for the availability of the stock. And that's all because of the smartphone which is in his hand. And that gives him the power to access information on stock availability and pricing, etc.
So very nice, Dhaval. That very, very well thought of point, that there is stronger chance of us to retain the customer. He tries to be with the company because of this omni-channel for longer than any, including you and I, would bother once we have not got it in earlier times, right? So that's very interesting observation from you. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? You can continue.
No, so just I was concluding by saying that the vision of the customer has increased now. And he knows a lot more about your company, sometimes even more than what you know about the company yourself. Probably.
True. And that's an opportunity as well. And like Girish was saying, the Indian companies need to really spruce up their technology investment in terms of whether it's website or back-end delivery system, because customers are actually going. But if the Sapna bookstall, for example, is not ready for that, receiving the customer on the site and servicing, they probably lose out. But that's a great opportunity to retain the customer.
There is a flip side also, and that also we should be aware of, that modern trade business has taken some hit on account of e-commerce business going up. That's my personal as well as professional outlook also. But I also believe that modern trade should pick up once there is some amount of, how do I say it? Some businesses are willing to go one level up and provide whatever you have, say, purchased in the modern trade store, provide a quicker delivery to your house. So you just go pick up the basket, fill it up in a modern trade, and they probably arrange it to your house. So DMart, etc., has been doing it in some pockets and some parts. But I believe if that convenience gets given more, the loyalty to the modern trade business would increase.
Sure. And Dhaval, have you seen any changes in the distribution model in a company like Godrej in terms of stocking levels and fills from say disti to the retailers, or from you to the distis?
So the distribution has changed slightly in two aspects. One, how do I say it? The identification of priority of a stock. Earlier, it used to be somewhat given that say a particular SKU, it can be sold either in general trade, modern trade, e-commerce or modern trade, or other channel. It was just a simple piece of cake. But now, since the stocks were in scarcity, the allocation for each of the channel at any point of time, that was closely and very rigorously reviewed upon. So if say a channel has committed that they will be selling 100 cases, the kind of rigor on that number getting achieved is much more. And that's a welcome thing, frankly, because then the accountability increases.
Okay.
The second thing which has happened, in some cases, there has been a conscious call to do some pricing differentials also. If there is a case which makes sense, a business case, then there has been some possibilities there also. So I think that would increase. And as somebody was mentioning a bit while ago, that the kind of profitability for e-commerce channels goes down. I think it, by doing such kind of pricing differentials in the overall scheme of things, would help in some way to offset that kind of profitability loss.
Very, very interesting points from you, Dhaval. Very interesting. Thanks for sharing your observations and thoughts. Girish, Nisha has a question for you. Nisha, I would let you ask. Go ahead and ask.
Yeah, Nisha.
Yeah, hi, Girish. Good afternoon. Girish, so I just wanted to understand, a majority of Bangalore's tech force is not native to Bangalore per se. And during the lockdown, we saw a good amount of people that moved back to their hometowns, etc. Do you think that you saw more demand, or did you see like a new economic channel for, say, new age cafes or your coffee in tier 2 and tier 3?
Sorry, I lost you, Nisha.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Girish, the question is also on the chat. You can.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand if during the lockdown you saw a new economic channel open up for, say, Hati Kapi in tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
No, see, basically we were not there in tier 2. See, you need to have a manufacturing center there for supply of products, I mean, beverages or snacks, one, or coffee, filter coffee. So there, we did not experience that kind of demand, number one.
Okay.
Number two, what we experienced is that even in Bangalore also, the online ordering, because of pandemic safety issues, people are not ordering much on the online. Not only us, and including our competitors, Chai Point or Chayos.
Right.
Only last 2-3 months it started picking up. So including the footfalls or including the number of orders online.
Sure. Thank you so much.
So, to continue, Rishi, one question, one thinking which for example, one of the best vegetables in the city in various touch points is Hopcoms is there in Bangalore, multiple points, right? Rishi, are you there?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
there is no online ordering for example, Opcoms. See, the government or local, somebody can really look into how can they order from Opcom sitting at home, or delivery model. They can have some bicycles. They can just come and deliver, like friendly neighborhood. They can come and deliver. There are two things instead of going to central warehouse, all those things. All across the road there will be Opcoms, guys, right? So if I order what I want, vegetables like kotamiri or so many things, one can deliver using friendly bicycles, or a milk vendors, for example, local Nandini is there, Nandini booth. Model, I mean, online or hybrid model, local online can adopt. I mean, if at all Indian market See, another challenge for small vendors like us, Atikapi or vegetable vendors, is that how do we develop the small website, quick website or a quick link, where they can implement that and they can have a touch base with their customers. So it costs minimum 4 to 5 lakhs to develop something delivery model with the integration of payment gateway, all those things. So this is one opportunity for even for the IT segments for approaching MSME segment and pushing, instead of everything, everybody wants to list it at Big Basket or Amazon and all. It's a big process. We need to give listing fee so much. It's a big task ahead for each of the brands to get listed there. For example, Big Basket, we took 6 months to get listed. Can you imagine?
Really? Why would it take that long?
I want to ask the promoter of one of the forums. Definitely, I'm going to give him 1 cup of coffee and I'm going to ask him.
and now Big Basket will be a Tata group, so you will probably be better.
DMart is putting all the brakes for us to get listed inside. I'm not able to enter inside the DMart. DMart. I mean,
every time
so much of red tapeism I see.
I guess that's the cultural issue as well. But every time I speak to you, Girish, I get an idea of some business opportunity from your observations. So that's interesting.
Yeah, one day I'm going to charge royalty.
Sure.
Hey, chalo. Thank you.
Thank you, Girish. Saurabh, you have been listening very patiently. Saurabh is an MBA student. He mentioned. Any questions from you, Saurabh? You can ask.
I was just listening to Girish, and I had a question about like them going D2C or something like that, but then he immediately answered that. So that's pretty much my question. Otherwise, I mean, the points made by Mr. Saket and Dhaval were, I guess, a little bit above my understanding, I guess, because I'm yet to sort of understand the whole background of the business.
We appreciate your enthusiasm to learn and join a conversation like this, but I'm sure it would help you in making sense and connecting with what you're learning in the college. So thanks for joining in, Saurabh. Rajesh, any other observations or questions from you to anybody else? And Sheetal, you as well, anything?
Yeah, actually the e-commerce platform, what we just all spoke about. Yes, KY is also trying their hands in e-commerce business.
Okay.
The response for Flavor is good. Last 6 months we are operating with that. The business is growing.
Is this your own website, or are you tying up with?
We do have our own website. Along with we have a tie-up with the this one Flipkart and Amazon. Just now we are tied up with the Amazon as well. So yes, the response is good, and we are again talking about our POS systems to link with the e-commerce channel. So yes, we are expecting a good amount of business, and this is a business where the retail, where you are directly order to cash sale kind of sales are happening. So we are looking for that opportunity as well. And yes, we are striving now, catching, as I already told you, we are trying to achieve our budgets, and hopefully we will cross this, because our business is now last 6 to 7 months is quite pretty well. We are the government have given some facility in the sense 50% workforce they have increased, so we have volume is going up, but we are trying to now gear up with the raw materials availability. That's a problem for us, but it will get addressed soon now. Okay. Thanks.
Your raw material, are they how much of the import dependency do you have?
My import dependency, my entire my total volume of raw material comes is the 50% volume is import material. So our base is majority oils, your sand, your orange oil, cedarwood oil, lot of oils based fragrance are there.
And which part of the world is that dependency from?
Yeah, majority is Brazil. Then there are 2-3 countries are there, but again we are tied up with the traders as well. So I think that good amount of raw materials are coming from the trader right now. But now soon, once the global activity gets started, so now the second strain have come. So again, there is a gap, a stop gap kind of arrangement need to be done. But yes, we will. We are gearing up with the new challenges again and again for the new businesses also. Hopefully. Thanks.
Thanks, Rajesh. I think I would really urge that we continue having this discussion on the app, on the platform. It will be good to get views from all the others who could not join and who are listening to me on recording. Please share your views. It's good to keep learning. It's also good to know what others are doing. We are trying to do this kind of webinars as soon as we can, as often as we can. But it will be also good to utilize the platform. If you guys prefer, we can make industry-wise groups on Gap, like an F&B and consumer goods or whatever, so that we have more industry-related discussion. If you think it's good to be open, either ways, fine. Please share your suggestions. I'm really keen to make this rolling in terms of mutual learning. And this is not one of those typical webinars where we just listen and and not contribute as such, but this is more of a roundtable discussions that the technology is facilitating. So I would really want your contributions to learn more. Any views you can share, and then we can close.
Yeah, Rishi, I agree with you. The group will help. I mean,
Okay,
we can share
sure.
some of the ideas. We can.
Sure. Dhaval, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Rishi, one suggestion.
So
I'm not sure whether I have been in the other discussions, and probably that's why I'm saying this. I believe we should also look outward in terms of other geographies other than India. So which
Yeah,
have seen
absolutely.
the kinds of upheavals in the last few months or years. And I'm not sure, like some locations, like say, which have manufacturing base in that country, and also their vendor base is in a different geography. So that would also help us understand how the contingency measures have evolved over the past few months.
Good
would
point.
help us to gain
Good point.
an outside perspective also.
Yes, Dhaval, good point. So one of the things I've been trying to get members on board from across the globe. It's not been easy, but there are quite a few members, but it's that they're not active. Whole idea is to learn right from each other on how others are doing, as you mentioned as well. Yeah, sure. So in case you know somebody in any geography which whom we can learn from, who would be willing to share experiences, do connect us, and we'll set up a call with him or her. And have a discussion, and just an informal, like how we are chatting today, right? For learning, and we will be trying on our end as well as soon as we can. Sure, and I think that's a good.
Sure.
Good
Something in my radar, I'll definitely pass it on.
Sure, and Girish will set up the F&B group and put everybody who is from the F&B background in that, and
Yeah,
also
please, that will be great.
Yeah, and I think at times there is a bit of a confusion, it's like Dhaval himself, should he be in consumer goods or F&B, or I don't know. So maybe we can have a little broader group of consumer guys also over there. So that's about it, guys. Thanks so much. Next week we have a very interesting session on leadership. Nisha, that's right. Do you want to just give a quick overview of what we are speaking on the speaker next week on the topic?
Sure, Rishi. So next week we would be having Mr. Ian Faria address us on how to thrive in the new normal. He will take us through how leaders and organizations are dealing with the new normal in terms of their particular businesses and industries.
Okay. I would be very keen to listen to Ian. I would request all of you, if you have time, it's nothing like attending a live session, so do join in and let others know as well. Right, and thanks so much for joining today and sharing your views. It was really good learning session. Let's do this more often.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
talk to each other. Yeah. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.